send other songs.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 421. It's Tuesday, December 4th, 2012, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Internet talk radio for your imagination. Mike Matthews broadcasting from the last place on earth located somewhere in Castro Valley, California. Today we hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Plus we bring you the segment Into an Interview with the lead singer, songwriter, composer, multi-instrumentalist of the band Bright Moments Kelly Pratt.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
This whole fiscal cliff business is creating a rift in the Republican Party because they're mad at that.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
House Speaker John Boehner. In fact, Americans for Prosperity, a super PAC backed by conservative billionaire brothers David and Charles Koch, and they are sly. They piled onto the anti-Boehner critiques in another Tuesday statement saying that what he's done is a derailment, that he's not doing enough to reform the runaway entitlement programs and government spending.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
This could pave the way for non-Tea Party conservatives to splinter off and support a proposal that includes some tax hikes for the wealthy that's never ending.
Mike's
And this is interesting.
Daily
They say that 53%
Podcast.
of Americans would blame the Republicans if we went off the cliff, while only 27% would blame Mr. Obama. According to a recent Pew poll, look who just walked in.
Hello, Michael Matthews. This is Madame Rootabega. And I know what the Pew poll is, Michael Matthews.
What's that?
It is a long metal stick that stinks.
Not exactly. Look who else just walked in.
Hello, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
What do you guys think about the Tea Party and the other Republicans all fighting each other?
Yeah, that's really interesting day, but I don't care about politics.
Yeah, we think politics are boring, unless it has to do with Dan Coulter killing another baby hot seal. Do you know that?
She does that?
I wouldn't put it above her.
We read all her books. We got lots of time out there in the parking lot day.
Wow, I'm impressed. And a little bewildered.
Michael Matthews, I hear that you're going to make an authentic Mexican soup today. Ooh!
Yeah, this is going to be the first time your host, Mike Matthews, Mr. White Caucasian guy with no hair on top of his head, with German background, is going to attempt to make a delicious Mexican jalapeno soup, which is a spicy chicken soup. I've never done this before. My wife found a recipe. She's off at work. I'm going to make it for her because I'm that nice, a romantic type husband guy.
Wow, Mike, I'm really impressed day.
Yeah, how come you's never made us any soup? Do you know that?
Well, I'm not really that much of a soup maker, which interestingly enough, my mom made a lot of soup growing up.
Michael Matthews, it sounds delicious.
Actually, it was interesting. My mom likes to put lots of chunks of whatever it is she's making. So if she's making pea soup, it's not just peas in the soup. It's chunks of sausage and ham in there. And it's not just chicken soup. It's chunks of poultry plowed into this potpourri of broth.
Wow, Mike, that sounds really enticing day. So much so I just fell into a huge barrel of broth.
Yeah, I wonder if this is what they use to make bratwurst. Do you know that?
What? How did this big barrel of broth get here?
Hello there, Mike. I make the root beer. I'm the brewmaster. Oh, boy.
Brewmaster, why do you have broth in your root beer vat?
Well, the eggnog that I made yesterday exploded in a big ball of fire. So I decided to use the chicken broth to make my root beer. Oh, boy.
You know, I don't think those things mix together at all, really.
Prove it.
Well, I mean, just... Okay, that proved my point.
Brewmaster, you don't have any eyebrows left, day. What are eyebrows?
If you would like to send your favorite chicken recipe or pea soup recipe, email me at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. Emails for me-mails is the segment we will read those on. Also, you can email me if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show. Check out the website, mikesdailypodcast.com. Go there. You can find our link in iTunes, where you can listen to us on iTunes, subscribe to us there. You can rate this show there, and that will cause more people to find out about us and we'll get more popular. Yay. Also, go to mikesdailypodcast.com to find out where you can find us on YouTube and our Mike's Daily Podcast TV, where we bring you Mike's Daily Post Podcast. Basil the Boxer and I will be doing one of those again today. We also have at mikesdailypodcast.com where to find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Yelp, all at mikesdailypodcast.com. And don't forget this, too.
Mike's Yuletide personalized MP3 for thee contest.
I will make an MP3 for thee featuring all the characters from The Last Place on Earth here on Mike's Daily Podcast. If you email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com, the first person to email me will get a very awesome gift, and that will be all of the characters saying a very happy season's greetings to you, as well as you will get the new CD from the group that we had recently on the show, Saint Motel, and their CD Voyeur, which features the song 1997 on it. It's a great CD, and you can win it. Email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
Into an interview.
Hello,
Hello, Kelly?
this is him.
Kelly, it's Mike Matthews from Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? It's an honor to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
Chely Pratt is the man behind the group Bright Moments. He is the singer, songwriter, instrumentalist, and creator of the band. And you have this new album called Natives that came out this year.
Yes.
And Kelly, I have to tell you, I found you in a sort of a roundabout way. I had no idea about all the amazing bands that you've played with and all the other amazing projects you've done. I heard the Bright Moments song on the KCRW Tune of the Day, and it was Milwaukee Protocol, and I loved that song, and I'm like, oh, what is Bright Moments? I had no idea it was you, and so I was very intrigued when I started doing some research on you, and I'm like, oh, wow. You've done a lot of things. You've played with so many amazing bands like LCD Sound System, Coldplay, Arcade Fire, David Byrne, Beirut. And how is it you find what the collaborator is going for when you're working on these projects?
Well, that's a good question, actually. It's kind of just about intuition, I guess. Like, some people are better about, or I shouldn't say better, but some people kind of know what to get out of you in more musical terms, and some people are more about, like, colors or, less specific. But, there's a hefty dose of intuition involved, and just, being familiar with the people's music really helps, because then you're able to say, well, they would go that way or they wouldn't go that way. And then, you put a bit of yourself in there too, ideally.
And then you do your amazing trumpet work or whatever else you're called to do, and because I love the sounds of trumpets in like the bands, where I think David Byrne, as a matter of fact, on one of his solo albums, he had like a mixture of Latin groups and actually had a lot of trumpet on it in an album he did, I think, in the early 90s. And it just sounds great, the performances that you... So they say, like, colors, different colors?
Yeah, I mean, that's more like... that's a little... People don't typically say, like, play it like it's green, but I've definitely had that before. But, yeah, I mean... Sometimes there's specific, like, notes, literally notes, written music. But, most of the time it's more just like, we want to... They'll use adjectives like, let's make a flighty part, or let's just do pads, or let's do something a little more melodic, minor, major, It totally depends on the situation, really.
How did you record Natives?
A lot of it, well, I demoed it really extensively at home first, and then went into the studio and, like most people do these days, recorded it bit by bit, drums, and then guitars, bass, and for a lot of times it was piano first that I did. And then a hefty dose of it was done at home, actually. A lot of the synthesizer stuff and a bit of the vocals were done at home. But most of the horns, everything else, vocals, a lot of the stuff was done in the studio.
What advantage does now I've heard it's like a New York apartment that you have recorded in.
Yeah. I did a hefty bit of it at home in my apartment in New York.
What's the advantage of that versus a recording studio in a building somewhere else?
Well, the main benefit obviously is expense.
True.
So when you're recording in a studio, you're going to spend at least $500 a day just to have the place and the engineer and the equipment.
Right.
Whereas at home, if you have unlimited time, it's the way more economical way to do. Or like the way I did it, like I said, was I recorded everything at home, literally, and conceptualized the album that way, and then went into the studio and essentially just like had everybody play their parts without much experimentation. The benefit of a studio is that everything is going to sound better, unless you're just a recording genius, which I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is going to sound a little more professional. Like the room will always usually sound better in a studio than it does in your house. But if you're into like experimentation and sort of improvising a little bit with your songwriting, which I do, you want to hash it out at home first. And like I don't, like most people these days probably, I don't chart stuff out when I'm writing music, writing songs. I sort of record it first and then decide what works and what doesn't.
Okay.
And then go from there.
Oh, okay. So the song Milwaukee Protocol, which is the one I first heard Bright Moments on.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about this song.
It's kind of like a loose interpretation about this girl who was the first person to be cured of rabies.
The first person to be cured of rabies.
Yeah, and it was a really radical cure solution. What they did was put her into a coma, and then sort of let her natural immune system take over and fight the disease, which it did, and she lived. She's alive.
Wow. How did you find this story?
It's kind of like more of an inspiration. It's not her story per se. So I don't know. It's kind of like I was just on Wikipedia, or I think one thing led to another, and I ended up reading about rabies online because it's a pretty intriguing disease. It really turns you into somebody that you're not. It makes your brain swell and you kind of go crazy.
Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really bizarre. People don't get it really that often, obviously. So I don't think there's been too much study on what happens, the human body's response. But it messes with your brain basically, and you end up doing and saying things that you wouldn't normally do. So I was kind of intrigued by that, and just reading about it on Wikipedia, no real reason to write a song about it. And then I read this girl's story, and I kind of had the song already there, but no lyrical idea whatsoever. It just kind of fell into place, really.
Wow. Well, I'm going to play it right now on the show, on Mike's Daily Podcast. Okay. So people can hear, and it just, I think you do such a great job, the sound you create. And I would like to talk to you some more about that. Is amazing, because I've heard you use a lot of, you do the found recording, or you record like in pub, like in the world. You get field recordings.
Yeah, and a lot of them I don't actually do myself. I find them on various places online. But yeah, I use a lot of field recordings. That's, I guess, the technical term. But, it could just be the sound of somebody splashing around in their bathtub. Or, in this case, in Milwaukee, it's not even really that evident, but there's a sound of bats flying around. That's how she contracted the disease.
From bats. Interesting. Wow. Okay, well, let's play it. It's Milwaukee Protocol. This is Kelly Pratt and his band Bright Moments, and the name of the album is called Natives. Here it is on Mike's Daily Podcast. Milwaukee Protocol. That is the group Bright Moments. And Kelly Pratt, as we go outside the last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. We'll bring you part 2 of our interview tomorrow.
And here's today's podcast picture.
And you can find out more about his music at brightmomentsmusic.com. And the picture is of Bright Moments and Kelly Pratt playing a very tiny piano. And that's the Tuesday show. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday or whatever day you're listening to this. Tomorrow, we will bring you part 2 of Into an Interview with Bright Moments Kelly Pratt. Plus, we'll hear from Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer.
Michael Matthew, a Pew poll has just discovered that my voice causes people to want to mow their lawn. Ooh!
Wow, I never knew that. What do you think about that, Valentino and Bison Bentley?
Well, Mike, we want to mow the parking lot right now, there.
As you know, we have tried to do that in the past, and it's very difficult to do since there's no grass. Do you know that?
And we don't have a lawnmower either, there.
Oh, Madame Rootabega, look at the chaos you've created.
Did I do that?
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.